Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Carmen. Hi, welcome. Glad you're here. Today we are going to be doing my March reading wrap-up. Finally, because it's already the middle of April, basically, so it's just been a busy time. And last weekend, my in-laws were here for the weekend over Easter and everything, so you know what? It's fine. We're doing it now. Better late than never, right? Excuse me. Not sure what my voice is doing. So, transparency. I tried filming this yesterday, actually. Today's Friday, yes. No, I tried filming it Wednesday already. But I was outside and there was so much traffic. People driving by, coming home from work. So I live at the entrance of a park, trailer park. And so everyone coming home, they were driving right by, like the driveway is right by our house. They would stop and get their mail at the mailboxes. And so there was just a lot of noise. The fire truck and the ambulance came by and came into the park. I don't know what that was about. And I was just distracted a lot and could not get my thoughts together at all about the books that I read. The whole thing was just a flop. So here is, trying to get you guys situated here. So here is take 2, I guess, of the March reading wrap up. I read a total of 7 books. 4 of them were on my Kindle, actually. I'm in my Kindle reading era, okay? Because ever since I got this new one for my birthday, I've just been, wow, I don't know what it is, but I have just been reading so much more on my Kindle, more than usual, because I honestly prefer physical books, but I don't know, there's just something about it. And I think it's because I have a free trial with the new Kindle. I have a free trial with Kindle Unlimited for like 3 months, and so I've just been snatching up all the books that I can on there and reading them before the trial runs out. But anyway, it was an excellent reading month, like just really great all around, because I was just mood reading, picking up whatever looked good to me, and that was the best thing, because every single one of my books that I read are either 4 or 5 stars, with the exception of one, which we will talk about then. But yeah, overall it was just an excellent reading month. It was good for my heart. Because I just needed a good reading month again, and I was just very happy that every book that I did pick up was good, except that one. So, all around, great reading month. So we're just gonna start from the beginning. The first one that I finished in March, I believe I started it in February, but it was a book club pick of the month. This was the first book that I finished in March. And then we got together and had a discussion over it. Like I said, a lot of these books were read on Kindle, so I don't have the physical books with me, so I'll just put all of the covers of the books here, or the ones that were on my Kindle. The first one that I read was Being Mary Bennet by J.C. Peterson. So this one is a YA contemporary romance. And we follow Marnie Barnes is her name, the main character, and the whole premise of the story is that she views herself as a Mary Bennet in her family. So if you, this is a nod to Pride and Prejudice, and Mary Bennet was kind of the middle sister that is kind of just always in the background, or ignored, or just kind of awkward and weird, If you know Pride and Prejudice, you know what I'm talking about. So she basically sees herself as a Mary Bennet. Yeah, basically she's just living her life in the shadow of her older sisters, and so she just decides to reinvent herself. She writes a manifesto about how she's going to change, and she's not going to be a Mary Bennet anymore. She's going to, start to be the main character in her life, I guess. I don't know. It was really fun and interesting to watch her do this, and yeah, I like what the Goodreads description says. It is a truth universally acknowledged that every bookworm secretly wishes to be Lizzie Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. A less acknowledged truth is that Mary Bennet might be a better fit. So as I was reading this book, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I always liked Lizzie. She's my favorite, obviously. I mean, okay, I love Jane as well, but sometimes I do actually feel like a Mary Bennet. But it's okay. You know, I feel like we all just go through we can relate to different characters in the books. But anyway, like I said, there's also a romance in here. It's a really sweet, cute romance. And yeah, just watching all of that play out was just a lot of fun. The family dynamics was very fun and interesting as well. There's obviously some like not so perfect things with the relationships and with the dad and all of that, but I did appreciate one thing that we all talked about. I appreciated how there was a significant amount of character growth for Marnie especially, and then you can also get a bigger picture of her family. But yeah, I just appreciated the character growth at the end and of how Marnie like stopped being so like introspective and focused on herself and like having these pity parties and just all of that stuff. And she learned to look out around her and see other people's lives and start caring about them, and also realize that her family and the people around her actually do care about her. I think a lot of times if we think the people around us don't like us, it's just like we're creating those own thoughts in our heads because we're so focused on ourselves and we're just like inward focused. So I appreciated that there was that growth in this book. But yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it overall. I ended up only rating it 3 stars though, because I'm just not comfortable recommending it to just anybody, especially younger readers. Her older sister that was supposed to be like a picture of Jane Bennet, the oldest sister, she is a lesbian and has a wife. This just briefly mentioned. It's not like a huge part of the story, but it's there. Marnie does also, there's also a scene where Marnie gets drunk at a wedding and completely embarrasses herself. I don't want to give too many spoilers in case someone actually does want to read this. Yeah, I get so much secondhand embarrassment thinking about that. But yeah, there's that in there. And yeah, I don't know. It's just Marnie's internal processes and thoughts and her obsession over a specific guy. And like, yeah, some of her thought processes are just not super healthy. And I just, like I said, I just wouldn't really recommend this to just anybody. If it sounds interesting to you, it's your choice. You can pick up the book and read it. But there are my warnings / content considerations for you to have in mind going in. But yeah, overall, it was a cute, fun little story. But yes, there's that. Moving on. So the next 4 that I read, you would have seen in the last 24-hour readathon attempt that I did. And the first one was the Blackout book club by Amy Lynn Green. I actually have the physical copy here. Wow, this book. I so thoroughly enjoyed this book. Any book that involves books, I'm here for it. If it's written well, I should say. Yeah. So we follow Avis Montgomery. She is the head librarian in her small town in Maine. So this is during World War II, I should say. And her brother is off fighting in the war, and he's asked her to like take care of the library, keep it open, do all of the things for him to come back, because he loves the library. It's like a huge part of his childhood. And yeah, so she is the head librarian, even though she doesn't read. She's not interested in books at all. The lady that owns the library, Louise, I believe is her name, she's a spinster. She owns the library, so like it's a private library. And she is considering closing the library down and using the building towards like war efforts and things like that. And Avis did not like that idea because she knew her brother would want the library to stay open. So she is trying to come up with ways to keep it open, and so she decides to start a book club and pulls other people in from her community. It starts out with just 4 ladies, Martina, then Ginny, and then Louise, the owner of the librarian, also joins this little club. So it just starts out with the 4 of those, and those are the 4 point of views you get for the most part throughout the story. And so we're following all of their stories in this book. But it's pretty easy to keep up with, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, especially like the book club part. There's sections in the book that have the notes or minutes from their book club get together. I don't know if you can see that. And so they each take turns writing down the discussions, and it was just really fun reading all of their different interpretations and different views of the books that they read. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I loved the characters. I was really invested in all 4 of the ladies' stories, and there's a little bit of a mystery / very minor plot twist. It's not really a plot twist. It's just like a surprise that you didn't really see coming. Excuse me, with one of the character stories. And yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I rated it 4 stars. It was just a good time. At the end of the book, there is actually a list of all of the books that they read in this book club. So that's fun. I want to go back now and read some of these books. I've read a few of them, but not nearly all of them. But I did love the fact that they read one of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Robe by Lloyd C. Douglas. I've been wanting to reread this book for a long time. I think Erica talked about it in one of her recent videos as well. It's so good, and I think we're actually going to be rereading it maybe in May. I'm not sure. I need to confirm that, but I really appreciated that they read that book because it's one of my favorites, and I was like, yes! Shout out to all the great books. But anyway, yes, that is the Blackout Book Club by Amy Lynn Green. And now, are we ready to talk about one of my all-time favorite reads? Probably all time. I was gonna say maybe just this year, but maybe of all time. Wow. Wow. So good. But that was 1,000 Heartbeats by Kiera Cass. I don't know if I was just in the right mood for this book, but yeah, like I said, I was reading it for that 24-hour readathon, and I started it and just devoured it. Like, it's a 500 plus page book, I believe. But I read it so fast. I could not put it down. It was so good. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. It is a fantasy book, but with no magic, which I really appreciated because I don't like fantasy with magic, especially if it's not Christian. And yeah. Wow, this book. The romance, wow, so sweet. It's like, it's basically kind of star-crossed lovers, enemies to lovers, basically. I don't think I've really read a lot of enemies to lovers tropes, like true enemies to lovers, like this one. But yeah. You guys, this book. It's so good. It was just so great. This was the first Kiera Cass book that I've ever read, and I just loved the entire world that Kiera Cass created. Obviously, it's a fictitious world. I love fantasy elements because they feel a little bit like fairy tales and just all of the fun, exciting things, okay, that happen in fantasy books, and just wow. The warring kingdoms, like the political drama, and then there's the romance, all of the things. This book was just so good. I loved the characters, like not even just the main characters, like Lennox and Annika, wow. They jumped up to the top of my favorite literary couples list. But the side characters in this book, like I feel like Kiera wrote so many diverse characters in the story, but she wrote them so well. I was so invested in every single character's story, even the side characters that didn't show up very often. I was so invested. I loved every single one of these. Wow. Yeah, I loved every single one of these characters and was super invested. And yeah, the family dynamics, wow. And the friendships. like I said, I must have just been in the right mood for this book because I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm just going to read a little bit of the review that I wrote on Goodreads. Like I said, the friendships, the familial relationships, and the romance were all imperfectly perfect, because obviously they can't be perfect because they're humans, but it was still just everything, the way it was all woven together was just fantastic. And yeah, I loved the themes of mercy and forgiveness in this book, like between the warring lands. So like you have 2 different kingdoms, and they are enemies. And so the one is wanting to take back the land that they believe is rightfully theirs. And so, yeah. But there's just like so much mercy and forgiveness. Like those themes are woven throughout the story, and it was such a beautiful thing. I don't know if Kiera Cass is a Christian, but I just really appreciated those aspects of the story. But yes, it's clean. There's like no spice. There are a few kissing scenes, but they weren't super detailed. And I don't know. I can appreciate a clean book because I don't want to read that stuff. Please no, leave it out. And also there's no language. So those were great pluses. And so like the only content considerations I would give is that, like I said, they're warring lands. And so there is fighting and people die. But it's never said in gruesome, gory details, and it's not like a huge theme throughout the book, but there are those elements here and there scattered throughout the whole story. But yes, I loved it so much. And like I said, no, actually this one was not a Kindle read. This was borrowed from the library, but I want to get my own copy because I just have to have this book on my shelf. I feel like even though it's a super thick book, I feel like I could read it over and over again because it's just so beautiful. I loved it. And the cover. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. The colors, the way the dress flows into the water, wow. So good. And can we talk about the title? 1,000 Heartbeats. Like that theme throughout the entire book. Wow. It's so beautiful. Like when I read the line that includes this title and it like just made things make sense. I actually think it's pretty close to the beginning of the book, but still just that theme throughout the entire book, so good and so beautiful. Read this book, please, if you haven't already. It's so good. I really loved it. Okay, so the next one that I read then was Laurel's Dream by Pepper Basham. This one I had found on Kindle for really cheap, or else it was free. I don't really know the circumstances of how I got it, but I downloaded it. It was a while ago, but then I finally read it last month. I really enjoyed this book as well. I gave it 5 stars. I wasn't sure if I would enjoy it going in because I had read The Mistletoe Countess by Pepper Basham in December, and I did not enjoy that one. Like, there were a few aspects of it that I enjoyed, but overall it just wasn't for me. It fell a little flat. And so I was going into this book, I was a little unsure, and I was just like, I hope I like it because the premise sounds interesting. I really wanted to love it, and I did. It was 5 stars. Just overall a great story. We're following Laurel, obviously, Laurel's Dream. She lives in the mountains of North Carolina and Appalachia with her big family, and she has dreams of becoming a teacher. She has so she'll have to actually leave the mountains and go into the flatlands and get an education and come back and be a teacher, because like the story of their little town is they have teachers coming in who'll teach for a little bit and then leave because they don't like the people or the culture and their ways of the mountain people. And so she's wanting to go get an education so that she can teach and be like a constant person there to bring education to her people of the mountains. And then also we're following Jonathan's story as well. He is from Great Britain, and he wasn't able to fight in World War II because of an injury or something, and so he always felt a little bit less than, or his father made him feel like a failure because of those things. So Jonathan moves to this town, and his uncle actually lives there in the area, so that's why he moved there. And he starts teaching at the school there. So that's how Jonathan and Laurel meet. But Laurel does not want to get married because she wants to go away to college, get an education, and come back and be a teacher. But things happen, things that are out of her control, and yeah, so she has to learn to let go of those dreams and just trust that God's plan for her are good. And I really related to Laurel on so many things in this book, about especially with the dreams and learning to let them go and just leave them, hold them with an open hand and let God just control everything and know that his plans for her are good, even if she may have to give up some of those dreams. Yeah, I enjoyed the book. The romance was really sweet. It was so good. It was just a fun, really fun story. And I also loved the setting. The North Carolina mountains, the Smoky Mountains, are some of my favorite mountains in the world, mostly because every year our family goes there on vacation, and it just holds so many memories there, and it's always so beautiful. Like the fog and the green, everything about the Smokies is just like, it's my favorite. It's so beautiful. And so having a story set in that area was the best. Like her descriptions of the mountain scenes and everything, I was just like, could totally picture it in my mind as I was reading the book. But yeah, 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I will say, for the younger readers, there is one scene, they are married, but it's a semi-detailed, passionate kissing scene. So there's that. That was one of the things that I did not really like about the Mistletoe Countess, was just the amount of kissing and the very descriptive details of the kissing scenes. And but this one I didn't feel was quite as descriptive. So it is in there though, so just be warned if you care about that. So yeah. That was Laurel's Dream by Pepper Basham. 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Then the next one that I read, come on, where's my list? I have my computer here with my Goodreads because I don't have the physical books, so I want to make sure I'm remembering everything. Okay, yeah, so then the last book that I read for that 24-hour readathon attempt was All the Tea in China by Jane Orcutt. So the premise of this book sounded really interesting, and that's why I picked it up at the thrift store. And yeah, but I'm just gonna say this one fell really flat for me. I only rated it 2 stars, or maybe I'd given it 3 but dropped it down to 2 stars because it's not a book that I'll come back to. I probably won't even recommend it because I just did not even enjoy it at all, hardly. So, which is unfortunate because I was really excited about it. What the story is about and what caught my attention was Isabella, the main character. She believes that God is calling her to China to be a missionary. And so I was like, oh, fun, cool. And I'm like thinking of the female missionaries who, against all odds and against all recommendations, they were single, all of that. They went anyway to these countries, to India, to China, to Africa, alone as single females back in the day, and that was looked down upon and not really supported in their areas. And so I was like, cool, historical fiction with that kind of, you know, person. I was like picturing like Amy Carmichael or Mary Slessor and all of those other single female missionaries who like were obedient and followed God where he called them. And so I was like, cool, we get this in a fiction story. Great, sounds exciting. And so Isabella, like obviously everyone's like, no, you probably shouldn't go to China. You're like a spoiled, maybe not really spoiled, but you're just rich. You're used to all of the pomp and the finer things of life. They just don't think she would make it over there. But she is determined. She believes that this is what God has called her to. So she sneaks onto a ship that is heading towards China. She sneaks onto the ship that the male main character is on because he is traveling to China. And he told her like he's a missionary over there as well. So she sneaks onto the ship so that she can talk to him and convince him that she like, she is fit for the job. Like, she could go with him and be a missionary over there. A lot of the story is them on the ship getting to know each other, and she discovers that Phineas, the male main character, is hiding some things from her and has a couple secrets of his own. And so, like I said, a lot of the story, I got cut off. So yeah, a lot of the story is them on the ship getting to know each other, finding out these different things. And then, like, the last portion of the book is her in China, actually in China. But yeah, it just felt really flat. Like, for it to be a story based on a girl who wants to be a missionary and spread the gospel to the unreached people of China, there should have been, or I feel like there should have been, more faith content. Like, there isn't hardly anything about her personal relationship with God in the book. Like, it's very briefly mentioned. Like, I don't even really remember moments of her actually, like, spending time in the Word and praying, and, like, this whole missionary idea just seems more like a flight of fancy. Like, it was just a fun idea that she got in her head, and was just determined that she could do it, and so she was going to do it. It didn't really feel like a real call from God, if you know what I mean. Like, it just overall just fell really flat. There is obviously ends up being a little bit of romance between her and Phineas, and that wasn't even really intriguing to me. I was like, I don't care anymore. I was not even halfway through the book, and I'm like, I'm done. I don't even care anymore. Let's just get this book done so that I can count it in this 24-hour readathon. So it fell really flat for me, which is really unfortunate. I was just really sad and disappointed that it fell so flat for me. It was just not, it was not a good time at all. And so that was the only flop of the month. Oh, sorry, Kippers. I just knocked him on the head with my computer. Oh goodness. Okay. So yes. That was All the Tea in China by Jane Orcutt. Only 2 stars. So, now, on to my favorite read. This is my top favorite read of this month, of the year probably. So, so beautiful. It's heart-achingly beautiful. But that is The Lady and the Lionheart by Joanne Bischoff. So, we are following Ella. She is a nurse working at a hospital, and Charlie, Lionheart, the male main character, comes into the hospital with his baby girl, who is very sick. Ella is not, like, a trained nurse at this point. She's, like, working her way up to that position. But everyone else in the hospital was busy and couldn't see him and the baby. Like, they couldn't take care of the baby right away. So the doctor tells Ella to just go check her, get her temperature, see what's going on, and report back to him. And so Ella does. She's excited. She can finally do, like, real nurse activities. And they end up staying overnight at the hospital, and she's taking care of the baby. And then the doctor realizes that Charlie is poor and won't be able to pay the fees for the medical care, and so he says that they have to leave the hospital. They have to get out, and claiming that the baby will be fine, whatever, it's not a big deal. But Ella knows that the baby needs a lot more care, and so she decides to decides to leave with them, and in order to go take care of the baby. And the doctor tells Ella that she will lose her job if she does, but she walked out anyway, and she went to Charlie's home to take care of the baby. And Charlie's home is actually the circus. He is a performer, and he is a lion trainer in the circus. And yeah, so basically we just follow the story from there, and get to meet all of the fun characters of the people who work in the circus, and just getting to know Charlie and his story more, Ella and her story more. Both of their stories are so heartbreaking, but I just love the way Joanne wrote this story, these characters. And, like, yeah, the redemption that happens in both of their stories at the end of the book. It's so beautiful. Like, when I finished this book, I literally just sat there holding my Kindle. I read it on my Kindle. I just sat there and just stared at it with my mouth hanging open, and I couldn't move for a good 10, 15 minutes. I was just in shock. I wanted to cry. The thing is, I always want to cry when books move me like that, but I don't very often cry over books, which is kind of sad. But I feel like, it felt like my soul was weeping at just the beauty of this story and the way she tied it all up, like the redemption that happened. It was just the most beautiful story that I have ever read. So good. The blurb on the front says, the romance is heart-achingly beautiful and the redemption will linger with readers for years. And I'm like, facts. That's so true, because I think I've thought about this book every day since I read it. And here's a screen recording of the messages that I sent to Erica. I was like, listen here, girl. If there is any book that you pick up next, please let it be this one, because I need to talk about it with someone. It's so good. And I was like, I'm shook. I can't move. This book just like wrecked me in the most beautiful way. Just like all of the elements in the story, everything, the characters, their storyline, like their past, and the choices that they had to make, and Charlie and the things he did, like the sacrifices he had to make in order to protect the people he cared about. Like, all of it was just like a beautiful, beautiful picture of the gospel and what Jesus did for us. And yeah, it's so good. I've never heard anyone talk about this book before. I found it on Kindle Unlimited. I had read another book by Joanne Bischoff. I think it's The Sons of Blackbird Mountain. Yeah. But otherwise, I had never heard of her other books, especially this one. But I am begging all of you, like all of you who follow me, can you guys pick up this book and read it, and then we can chat about it in the comments, because it's just so good. I want to talk about this book. I think more people need to read this book. I think more people need to know about this book. And all of you booktubers, I would love to hear your thoughts on this book, because I just loved it so much. It's so good. So good. And I might be hyping it up too much, and if you guys pick it up and are disappointed in it, then I'm sorry, but I don't see that happening. I don't. It was just so beautiful. I loved it. Loved it so much. So much. And again, it was a Kindle read. I am buying the physical copy because I need to have it on my shelf. I need to be able to read it whenever I want, to flip through and read my favorite parts. I want to loan it out to people. Yes. Hats off to Joanne, because this book was written so well. It's so beautiful. And now, I think Erica mentioned, like, after she finished the book, she was like, how do you even move on from that? How do you even choose another book to read after that? And I was like, my feelings exactly. My feelings exactly. I felt like I was like, I don't even know what to read anymore. That was just so good. Is anything else going to even compare to this book? It was really hard for me to pick up something else after that. I was like, I don't know what else to read anymore. Maybe I shouldn't say this, because it's not a spoiler. But like, once you read the book, go back and look at the cover again, okay? Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Oh, also, I cannot forget this. I almost forgot this. You have to read the author's note at the end, because Joanne like goes into detail of how the story came about, and it just like put a nice little bow over the already beautiful story. You have to read the author's note. I always read author's notes at the end of my books. I don't know if other people do, but this one is important. You must read it. Please, don't forget it. Don't leave it out. Oh my goodness. It was just so good. Okay, so then the final book that I read in March was The Heart of the Mountains. And so this is book number 2 to Laurel's Dream. It was also on Kindle Unlimited. And this time we follow Jonathan's sister, Cora. She was a nurse in the war, and so she would have been stationed in France, I believe. And then after the war, her father wanted to arrange a marriage for her that would not have been a good idea overall. And so she leaves England and comes to North Carolina just to visit her brother and sister-in-law, and also her uncle that is there as well. And yeah, just basically follow her story. It was really fun seeing Jonathan and Laurel again, and all the other characters that were in the first book. It was just fun seeing all of them again and learning more about them. And then also there is a romance in this book as well, and it is with Laurel's older brother Jeb. So just all the family dynamics here. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well. The faith content in both of these books, Laurel's Dream and The Heart of the Mountains, I really appreciated. It was really good, and I actually highlighted so many things in both of the books, Laurel's Dream and The Heart of the Mountains. So yeah, this one was also 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. It was really good, and I loved the growth, the character growth in some of the characters, and just seeing some stories be redeemed and all of that. But yeah, there are still some unfinished stories though with some of these characters, and I have looked, but I haven't seen any other books out yet in the series. But I'm begging you, Pepper, please don't leave me hanging. I need more. Okay, I don't want to give any spoilers, I don't want to say anything, but I just need more of this one person story. So please, if any of you guys know, are there more books coming out? I just need more of this series, or more of the one person story, because I need to know more. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, like I said, overall it was a fantastic reading month. I thoroughly enjoyed nearly all of the books, and like I said, most of them were 4 or 5 stars. It was so good. Mood reading is the best, and I've actually continued it into April. As you guys would have seen, I did not put an April TBR up either. I'm just continuing to mood read. And I'm also trying to tackle all of my physical TBR books that are on my shelves that I haven't read yet. If you guys saw that video as well, you know how long of a road I have to go to actually read all of the books that I own that I haven't read yet. But yes, those are the books that I read. Let me know if you have read any of them and what your thoughts are on those, or if any of these piqued your interest. Let me know as well. And yeah, let's just chat about books down below in the comments. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!